Happy to be here with you today. This is the clicker. I just spilled my tea on my iPad, so if it goes away, I'm in trouble. Also, at 1.95 meters, I'm the tallest speaker today. I hope to have the shortest speech. Before I begin some prepared remarks that I have for you, I would like to comment just a little bit on what I've heard today. First off, I would also like to recognize my distinguished colleagues and dignitaries here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this conversation with you. I had heard quite a few interesting ideas today. I heard that not everyone in the room agrees exactly the best way to approach international education. I can assure you that if we were having this conversation in the United States, not everyone would agree in the room how to approach international education. But it's those different ideas that make a lot of difference in approaching it. The notion that international education needs to fit what is best for the student, I think, is very important to keep in mind. My colleague from Beijing Normal made a very profound comment in this last session that the United States has the finest universities in the world and also has the worst universities in the world. I would concur with that there are a lot of different choices in the United States in universities as well as in high schools. Also, my colleague from number 35, Ali, was talking about Texas A&M and University of Arkansas. First half of my career, I was a university guy at Oklahoma State University, which wasn't far from the University of Arkansas. And so I know both those universities, also with a very fine agricultural engineering program. Those universities that we mentioned will not be on the top list, but you would not want to go do agricultural engineering at Harvard or Stanford. Trust me. So finding the good fit is very important. So I appreciate the conversation we've had. I think it's very important that we continue this conversation. And with that said, if I can figure out which one of these advances the slide, there it is, I will begin some prepared remarks for you. I think I can. There we go. Okay. I bring you greetings from the United States and the 370 independent schools that make up SAIS. I'm deeply honored to be with you today and take part in this discussion of educational collaboration between Chinese and American schools, teachers, and students. In an effort to make the future of our world brighter, I share with you some thoughts about cross-cultural collaboration opportunities between Chinese and American schools. All great civilizations have understood that education of its youth is the surest path to sustaining and furthering its greatness. Without a doubt, China has placed great value on education. Throughout the history, the inventive and creative genius of the Chinese people has given the world such important inventions as paper, gunpowder, the compass, and block printing. The words of Confucius still inform the education of Chinese youth some 2.5 millennia after his life. No doubt China stands great today largely because of the education of its youth. Additionally, education has been a cornerstone of the American civilization. Although America is young compared to ancient China, there has never been a time in her history that children were not encouraged to learn to read and write. The successes that America has been fortunate to achieve over the past 250 years, from the mass production of the automobile to space travel, have all been accomplished by hardworking, educated persons. Today, the American higher education system stands as a shining star of America's continued commitment to educational excellence. Both of our nations can look at the education of our youth as a reason that we are today leading nations on earth. Both nations owe our past successes to an educated citizenry, and both nations stake our future sustainability on our commitment to schools. In 2013, two of the world's most economically and intellectually powerful nations, the People's Republic of China and the United States of America have an opportunity to work together to ensure that Chinese and American students join forces to provide solutions for a world that has many challenges. Just as past civilizations or societies have always counted on the education of the young to ensure its sustainability, I suggest to you that the future sustainability of our world is largely dependent on the education of our youth. An education that recognizes and respects cultural differences while ensuring that the collaboration between students is not restricted by national boundaries. As Chinese and American students study together, they will better understand solutions to scientific and social problems that mutually threaten our existence. As Chinese and American students work together, they will provide an energy capable of guiding the world into a positive and sustainable future. As Chinese and American students live together, they will better understand how the joys, fears, and motivations of the others have been arrived at through traveling different paths that are no less significant than their own. The English word empathy identifies an attitude of understanding that attempts to view another person's perspective by seeing the world through another person's eyes. An empathic worldview allows one to understand cultural differences and the context from which they arise. I suggest that educational partnerships, such as we are discussing in this conference, allow students to understand and appreciate different cultural values and modes of solving problems. The more that students engage in a cross-cultural interactions, the greater the chance they will be culturally empathic as adults. Cultural empathy allows a unity between nations that will increasingly be necessary for solving global issues. I understand there is a phrase in Chinese, Huan Jie Zhou Shuo Liang, forgive my pronunciation, which recognizes the strength gained through unity. It is my opinion that our students will need to work together in unity to lead a prosperous 21st century world. The world our students will lead is a radically different world than the one previous generations led. It is anticipated that over the next 10 to 15 years, the Chinese economy will grow to match or surpass the economy of the United States. Additionally, there are other nations with economies that are growing rapidly, nations such as India and Brazil. The year 2030 will likely find a world without a hegemonic power, a world in which collaboration among coalitions will be a primary mode of influencing the global economy. By this reality alone, one could conclude that the world today's students will inherit will look much different than the world that our forefathers led. It will be a world where many more nations are at the board table of influence, and it will be essential that leaders are culturally competent, empathic, and committed to global sustainability. Instilling in our nation's leaders these skills begins with engaging students in collaborative cross-cultural educational opportunities. Children that enter our schools in grade 1 this year will graduate from college in 2030. In 2030, it's most likely that China and the U.S. will be required to collaborate and work together to ensure a stabilized world and a sustainable future for mankind. Only a world where collaboration among nations occurs will help to ensure the long-term sustainability of the earth and the future civilizations that share her skin. And I suggest that this collaboration must start with China and the United States. Over the past 2.5 decades, the exponential development of technology has made our world appear smaller. Obviously, I do not mean that the circumference of the earth has lessened, but rather that doing business or building relationships is not limited to our local towns, states, provinces, or even nations. The entire world is connected in a way that it has never been, and indeed it will continue to become more so. Technological advances have provided teachers and students tools that assist the educational process. In 2013, it is more possible than ever to network, collaborate, share knowledge, and retrieve information. Today, school children in Atlanta, Georgia can work more closely with students in Beijing, China than could school children in neighboring villages a mere 50 years ago. With this in mind, and with the ability to interact in real time across the globe, I hope all in attendance can agree with me that an education process in the 21st century can be so much more effective with a global perspective, and that it is important for us to take advantage of opportunities provided by advanced technology to introduce Chinese and American students to a productive collaboration. Of the many ways for Chinese and American schools to engage in educational collaboration, teacher-to-teacher connections are very beneficial to share techniques and pedagogies, both in person and virtually. This allows teachers to develop cultural empathy as well as learn from the strength of their colleagues' techniques. Another useful method of collaboration is through the development of partner schools. This allows connections at a variety of levels, including classroom to classroom, teacher to teacher, student to student, and leadership to leadership. Virtually all of the schools that I serve are interested in developing a formal partnership with a like-minded school in China. This type of formal partnership often creates a sense of family, a special bond that goes beyond that which is created through just occasional collaboration. Another very effective form of cross-cultural collaboration occurs with student-focused multinational research consortiums, where students engage in research projects with other students from different nations and cultures. This process allows students to interact with students from other nations through virtual laboratories, emails, Skype, and when possible, face-to-face retreats. This type of collaboration will not only develop cultural empathy, but it will also help students negotiate the challenges of solving problems in spite of language differences. I will travel to Moscow, Russia in 2 weeks to finalize just such a collaborative. For the past 2 years, in an effort to implement the Global Initiative for Collaborative Education, I've been in discussion with colleagues from the Advanced Research Institute in Moscow, Russia. This initiative is focused on the collaboration of school leaders, teachers, and students who are committed to identify and solve problems to ensure the sustainability and civility of the global future. The primary mission of the collaborative is to develop a network of outstanding secondary schools from around the world to collaborate on student research projects, share best practices among teachers, and convene regular summits for person-to-person discussion. The purpose is to generate discussion around teaching and learning and to conduct scientific research to identify best practices for teaching and learning in the 21st century world. The member schools and organizations will provide a global laboratory for research on the best practices of teaching and learning and cross-cultural problem solving. Student exchanges continue to be one of the most useful cultural experiences in which students can take part. There is no greater opportunity to develop empathy and gain knowledge than for an American student to live with a Chinese family and attend class in a Chinese school. Likewise, when a Chinese student attends an American school and lives with an American family, a relationship is built that persists indefinitely. For this reason, student exchanges and study abroad programs remain one of the primary means of assisting both Chinese and American students to prepare for the future they will lead. Through cross-cultural educational collaboration, students develop empathy for other cultures. It is through these collaborations that today's students, who are tomorrow's leaders, learn to work together and speak a common language around problem solving. This conversation today is about the growing sense among educators that Chinese and American students must learn and work together. The work of the American International Education Development Council and the People's Political Consultative Conference newspaper is central to this effort. The commitment to my Chinese and American colleagues in this room is a testament to this effort. I am deeply honored to be with all of you distinguished leaders. For the work you do in preparing our youth, I commend and thank you. You are involved in the most noble enterprise on earth. The future of our world is counting on your success. Thank you very much.